Ever found an old black and white photo tucked inside a family album and paused over the handwriting beneath it? Names like Hilda, Cecil, Ernest, or Gertrude, written carefully in fading ink. You don't see many birth announcements with those names today. Once, they filled school registers, wartime letters, and wedding invitations across Britain. Now they've slipped quietly into memory, replaced by Isless, Olivers, and Noahs. This isn't just about fashion. A name is a time capsule. It carries the rhythm, class, and imagination of the era it was born in. Some names whisper Victorian propriety, others hum with 1940s resilience. So today, we're taking a gentle stroll through history. 20 British names that once ruled the playground and now rest in the archives of memory. 20. Ernest. Ernest once stood for virtue, reliability, and a sense of purpose. It's a name with spine. The parents who chose it imagined sons who would grow into solid, trustworthy men, the kind who fixed things rather than complained about them. It carried the spirit of exploration, tied forever to Ernest Shackleton, the Antarctic hero. But as decades passed, Ernest began to feel too weighty for a world that preferred shorter, breezier names like Jack or Tom. Still, there's dignity in it, a quiet decency that never really goes out of style. 19. Gwendolyn. Few names feel as lyrical as Gwendolyn. Rooted in Welsh tradition, it means blessed ring, and once sparkled in storybooks and handwritten letters. It evoked romance, misty hills, and Sunday best manners. Parents who chose Gwendolyn imagined grace and poetry. But over time, people shortened it to Gwen or Wendy, leaving the full name to gather dust. Yet, when spoken aloud, it still feels like a line from a love poem, soft, musical, and unmistakably British. 18. Dorothy. Dorothy is impossible to forget. Even those who never saw The Wizard of Oz know that a girl named Dorothy once clicked her heels and dreamed of home. The name itself means gift of God. And for much of the 20th century, it was exactly that, warm, dependable, loved by everyone from nurses to teachers. As decades rolled on, parents chased trendier sounds and left Dorothy behind. But in nurseries today, the name is tiptoeing back. Perhaps people are realizing that sincerity never really ages. 17. Phyllis. Phyllis has Greek roots meaning greenery, and for a time it was fresh and fashionable. Early century Britain adored its soft rhythm, sophisticated yet friendly. You could easily picture a Phyllis hosting afternoon tea or teaching school children their alphabets. But by the late 1970s, it began to sound like a relic from ration book days. Now, hearing it is like smelling lavender soap, old-fashioned but oddly comforting. A name that reminds us of gardens, patience, and calm. 16. Horace. Horace feels straight out of a Latin textbook. In the 19th century, it carried intellectual weight, beloved by teachers, poets, and parents who admired the classics. A Horace was reliable, cultured, and probably owned a fountain pen. But when post-war Britain turned toward informality, Horace felt too rigid, too academic. Still, there's charm in its old-school seriousness. It belongs to a time when names had gravitas and a handshake meant something. 15. Mildred. Mildred means gentle strength, and no phrase fits the women who bore it better. They were the backbone of homes during hard times, practical, loyal, endlessly patient. The name carried both softness and steel. Yet by the 1960s, parents swapped it for the lighter Millie, leaving the full form behind. Today, Mildred feels vintage, like a piece of lace preserved in a drawer, delicate, detailed, and built to last. 14. Ethel. Once a darling of Victorian Britain, Ethel radiated elegance. It was fashionable, musical, and noble, literally. Its Old English root L means noble. Ethel appeared in novels, parlor songs, and music halls. But the mid-century taste for sleek, modern names pushed it aside. Still, every time we encounter it, Ethel seems ready for revival. There's grace in its simplicity, a reminder that true class doesn't chase trends. 13. Norman. Strong, grounded, unmistakably British, Norman meant North man, a nod to Viking ancestry. It dominated birth certificates from the 1910s through the 1950s. Normans fought in wars, built homes, and led scout troops. By the 1980s, though, it was trapped in nostalgia, sounding like a father's friend at the pub. Yet it still holds quiet authority. When you meet a Norman, you assume he knows how to fix the boiler and give sound advice, and that's no small thing. 12. Hilda. Hilda's story is one of endurance. Its roots mean battle, and fittingly, many wartime women carried it proudly. They worked in factories, kept households running, and rarely complained. Hilda doesn't glitter, it stands firm. Although the name vanished from nurseries, it's etched into the nation's memory, a symbol of strength wrapped in modesty. Some things, like courage and character, don't fade even when the name does. 11. Edna. Short, gentle, biblical, Edna once symbolized delight and moral steadiness. You could find Ednas across villages and cities alike, running schools, tending gardens, or volunteering at the church bazaar. Then the glossy decades arrived, and simple names like Edna seemed too plain beside glamorous newcomers. But that's precisely its charm. Edna never needed embellishment. It's an honest, no-nonsense name that feels like a firm handshake. 10. Doris. If names could smile, Doris would beam from ear to ear. Borrowed from a Greek sea goddess, Doris rode a wave of popularity in the 1920s and 30s. She was cheerful, stylish, and just a little bit glamorous, helped along by film icons like Doris Day. But as decades passed, sparkle gave way to sentimentality, and the name slipped from baby lists. Today, though, many hear it with affection. It's a reminder of swing music, seaside postcards, and sunny optimism. 9. Clifford. Solid, masculine, dependable. Literally ford near a cliff. It carried a rural charm, belonging to a generation that prized steady work and sturdy shoes. Many Cliffords became Cliff, the friendly neighbor who helped with your garden fence. But the full name had a gravitas that faded when fashions favored short, punchy syllables. Now it feels like an echo from a black and white film, dignified, polite, and reassuring. 8. Leslie. Leslie started as a Scottish surname meaning Garden of Holly, then migrated south and became a popular first name for boys. It carried a gentlemanly sound, refined but approachable. During the interwar years, Britain was full of Leslie's signing letters in neat cursive. Later, it crossed the Atlantic and found a second life as a girl's name in the US. Here, it quietly declined. Yet the word still rolls off the tongue with balance, equally at home in a boardroom or a poem. 7. Bertha. Bertha once meant bright, famous, and in its early days it sparkled with prestige. Queen Berthas and saintly Berthas filled history books. But in the 20th century, the name gathered unfortunate baggage, heavy machinery nicknames and comedy sketches. Its fall from grace was swift. Still, strip away the jokes, and Bertha shines again, a bold, beautiful sound rooted in heritage. It's easy to imagine a new generation reclaiming it with pride. 6. Cecil. Cecil, dignified, slightly posh, and wonderfully old school. For generations it signified education and quiet refinement. The Cecils of Britain were often teachers, civil servants, or men who collected stamps in mahogany boxes. Over time, the name drifted into the realm of nostalgia, replaced by punchier modern names. But utter it aloud and it instantly paints a picture: tweed jackets, Sunday newspapers, and conversations over tea. Some words simply sound well-mannered. 5. Gertrude. Few names carry as much history as Gertrude. Its Germanic roots mean spear of strength, and that meaning fits perfectly. Gertrude felt solid, serious, dependable, perhaps too serious for later tastes. But its diminutives, Trudy and Gertie, softened it into something affectionate. Although the full name vanished from baby lists, it lingers in novels and family stories. It's a reminder that beauty isn't always delicate. Sometimes it's made of iron. 4. Marion. Graceful, balanced, literary. Marion drifted through the centuries like a familiar melody. It appeared in legends beside Robin Hood and later in classic British literature. Parents loved its refinement and subtle religious undertones. But as modern names with sharper consonants arrived, Marion gently bowed out. Even so, it holds timeless appeal. Say it slowly, and you can almost hear the turning pages of an old novel. 3. Blodwen. One of Wales's most lyrical gifts to Britain, Blodwen means white flower. In chapel registers and village songs, it bloomed brightly a century ago. Its soft consonants carried the rhythm of the Welsh language, delicate yet strong. Outside Wales, though, the unfamiliar spelling held it back. Even so, it remains a hidden gem, an emblem of regional pride and poetic beauty. Every culture has names like this, quietly magnificent, waiting for rediscovery. 2. Willie. Before it became a cheeky nickname, Willie was simply warm and friendly. Working-class Britain loved its openness. It sounded like a mate you could trust. But slang reshaped its fate, and by the late 20th century, parents hesitated to use it. Language can be cruel like that. Still, Willie reminds us of a simpler time when names were chosen for friendliness rather than fashion. It's cheerful, humble, and unpretentious, 3 qualities the world could use more of. 1. Gladys. At number 1 sits a name bursting with heart, Gladys. Floral, melodic, and distinctively British, it once ranked among the nation's favorites. There was a Gladys in every town, serving tea at the church hall, running the post office, or lending sugar to the neighbor. It embodied kindness and humor. By the 1980s it had all but disappeared, replaced by glossy, modern alternatives. Yet say Gladys, and people still smile. It's friendly, radiant, and full of character. Of all the names on this list, it feels closest to making a comeback, because warmth never goes out of style. Why these names vanished? Trends move in circles. 100 years ago, parents reached for grandeur and tradition. Then came the television age, craving freshness and celebrity glamour. Today, global influences blur everything. Names travel fast and lose their borders. Yet deep down, we still crave identity. That's why vintage names, once considered old-fashioned, are quietly reappearing. Names like Elsie, Ada, Stanley, and Arthur are returning, carried by parents who find charm in their sturdiness. What really happens is distance. A name needs to disappear long enough to feel new again. The generation who found Ethel old ladyish has to fade before another generation rediscovers its elegance. Sociologists call it the 100-year cycle, nostalgia on repeat. It's why Florence and Ivy are fashionable again. Give it time, and perhaps a newborn Norman or young Gertrude will surprise us all. Names aren't just labels, they are cultural mirrors. They tell us what a society values: bravery, modesty, faith, or modernity. During wartime, strong names thrived. In the optimistic 60s, playful ones did. Each carries the fingerprint of its era. When we look back at names like Hilda or Ernest, we're not only seeing individuals, we're glimpsing the spirit of an age, a time when duty mattered more than glamour, and humility outshone hype. Maybe that's why these old names tug at us. They remind us of people who kept calm, carried on, and signed their letters with love rather than emojis. So there you have it. 20 British names that once ruled the roost and now whisper from history's corners. Some may return, others may stay forever vintage. But all of them deserve a moment of remembrance. Which one should make a comeback? Would you name your child after a great-grandparent, or do you prefer something modern and sleek? Let us know, because behind every name lies a story worth telling. If this nostalgic journey brought a smile, consider subscribing for more glimpses into British culture and history. And next time you meet a Gladys, a Norman, or a Trudy, take a moment to appreciate the legacy in their names. Because names, like memories, never truly fade. They simply wait for someone to call them again.